Welcome, Central Indiana sports fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for my new... Susie, can I still call it my new podcast? How long, Michelle, can I call it new?
As long as you want. Something is new until at least it's 6 months to a year old.
There we go. All right, then. So my new podcast, Greg and His Friends Talk Sports. I'm your host, Greg Mengel, and I have a co-host today, and that is Tipton, Tribune, and Elwood call leader, sports editor Michelle Garmon. Greg and His Friends Talk Sports is every weekday afternoon, and my friends and I are talking about whatever Central Indiana sports fans are talking about. And coming up today, Monday, March 30th, 2026, Michelle and I are going to talk about the NCAA tournament, both men's and women's. And there is so much to talk about, Michelle.
Yes, there is a lot. I will say this. I watched a lot of basketball from Thursday all the way through, and it won't be over until after the women's final two Elite Eight games tonight. But I've enjoyed it. It's been some really great basketball. Now, granted, there have been a few blowouts, but it's been great otherwise.
With a lot of Indiana ties as well in the men's tournament that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
We're also going to talk about the Indiana Pacers getting a win on Sunday evening behind a big night from Pascal Siakam. Alex Palou, another win in IndyCar. We're going to talk some national headlines, including the Cincinnati Reds taking 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox. We have our high school basketball state champions were crowned. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to look ahead to tonight's games, as Michelle mentioned, with the women's Elite Eight. And before we get to all that, Michelle, we had our boys basketball state finals recap with Grant Schaus that we did on Sunday. Everybody go check that out. Also did a recap to the IndyCar race at Alabama with Elijah Poe, Michelle, and Dave Chanley. So please go check those out. We had a busy weekend. A little later today, we have our Pacers report with Mike Rich. And then on Tuesday, we're going to be talking some IU football on the IU report with Grant Schaus and Mike Hutzel. And Wednesday, we're going to be wrapping up the season for the Purdue Boilermakers with Jake Dunn. Disappointing loss on Saturday, but the better team won, let's be honest. And we're on Thursday, we have our IndyCar report with Elijah Poe. All right, Michelle, let's talk some NCAA basketball, and we can start one of 3 places. We can start with Ben Humrichous becoming the 3rd player ever from Tipton in the Final Four. We can talk about Braylon Mullins and his amazing shot, or we can talk about how the NCAA tournament screwed it up and got the wrong semifinals in the Final Four. Michelle, where do you want to start?
Well, I'll tell you what. We can just kind of take it, I guess, in chronological order there a little bit. We'll start with Ben, because what a great moment for him and the whole Humrichous family. Ben's parents.
Michelle, they're making me cheer for Illinois, and I didn't think that was possible.
Oh, IU people just don't like Illinois. I know Purdue people are the same way.
No. They're our common enemy, Michelle.
Yes, they are. Except for with Ben this year.
That's right.
It was great. Like I said, his whole family was there. His mom and dad, Jason and Jennifer. His older sister, Lynette, who I coached as sixth grade basketball, and she's just a wonderful person. The whole family's wonderful. His brother, Ben was the second oldest. Lynette is the first. Then Ben's the oldest of the 5 boys. And his brother, Joe, and Joe's fiance was there. And his other brothers, Sam and Noah and Isaac, were all there. And we've had them on our podcast before. It was great. And Ben's wife. Ben got married. He got married over the Christmas holidays, and Ben's wife, Adalia McKenzie, who was a former Illinois women's basketball player, was also there. She and Ben got married on December 3rd. It was really kind of cute. I'm going to go over this real quick. There was a game with that Illinois had, and he hit a 3, and he looked to his bench, and he was going up and down with his ring finger for wedding ring as a thing, and kind of as of a way to announce it or remind them or whatever, but it was cute. It was captured on video and kind of played on social media, but yes, so I'm extremely happy for Ben. He a great young man, and he has this kind of side thing that he does. It's called Prove God Right. That whole family is very faith-based, and so Ben just feels very blessed. He's worked very hard, but he's also feels very blessed for everything he's gotten. And the great thing is, like I said, they all got to be there for him through the tournament. And the best thing for them is he gets to come to Indianapolis now. Illinois is coming to Indianapolis. Final Four's in Indianapolis, and I can only imagine how the number of relatives will grow that will be going to that to the Final Four game this weekend.
Very cool for that family. And again,
yes, it is.
Third player ever from Tipton in the Final Four.
Yes, Darrell Elston was the first as a member of the 1972 North Carolina Tar Heels, coached by Dean Smith. Of course, Cree Smith was the second. He was a member of IU's 1987 national championship team that won it all down there in New Orleans on that. Keith Smart, basically last kind of final few seconds shot, or last second shot for the Hoosiers anyway, and game winner. It's some magical moments for these young men at different times, and it's amazing to think that Tipton, a really small rural county with just 2 high schools now, I guess, used to have more before schools consolidated, to actually have 3 players that have played in a Final Four. And of course, there have been others that have played in the tournament. Matt Waddell made an Elite 8. Derek Elson made a couple Sweet 6. Mike Crawford got to play in the tournament when he was at St. Louis.
Michelle, great ending to the UConn Duke game, as you expect when you get UConn and Duke together. And that it was done by a player from Central Indiana was even cooler.
Oh, yeah. Last year's Mr. Basketball. Let me tell you, I was watching that game, and I literally put my hands up and shouted out. And when a lady in there said, "Did you just cheer for UConn?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Don't you understand?" I said, "That's an Indiana boy that just hit that shot."
That's right.
I said, if any other player had hit that, I wouldn't have reacted like that. But I was so happy for it to be Braylon Mullins to hit that shot.
I think anybody could cheer at that shot. That's just an all-time classic.
Oh, yes, it is.
That was 40 feet-ish.
There's a lot that could be said, and I will say this. I do hate it for Caden Boozer, whose pass is the one that had the pass deflected and stolen by Mullins and then turned into that 3 by Mullins. He handled all the post-game press questions. Very mature, as a college freshman. But mistake, yes, but I'll be honest with you, Greg. It was just a great ending by UConn. UConn never gave up that whole game. They got down by 19. They kept battling. They cut it inside 10, and then Duke got back up by double figures. But UConn just kept battling. And whether or not people like Danny Hurley, I happen to think he can be a jackass. As at times his behavior is, I don't really care for his behavior, but he's a heck of a basketball coach. My only thing is I don't really like to hear IU fans complain about Danny Hurley, because take a look. Danny Hurley is kind of like this modern day age of Bob Knight. He can be a jackass himself.
Yep, that's right.
But he was a heck of a coach, and that is what Danny Hurley is. And his team has that toughness to him, the same toughness that he has, and I think he had growing up in New Jersey and everything. He embodies that, and his team embraces that and plays with that edge. And you have to do is look what he's done.
Well, Michelle, I really like Braylon Mullins, and I hope he has a successful career, but I hope Ben Humrichous and the Illini just pound him on Saturday. That being said, they got it all wrong, didn't they? The NCAA tournament got the wrong number 1 seed, and now it's led to the wrong semifinals.
I don't think injuries should keep you out of the tournament or drop you from a good seed to a really bad seed, but they ought to, when you're talking about the top 4 seeds of the tournament, top 4 seeds, they have to play a role. They knew those kids from Duke were injured, and they didn't know exactly when they would be able to come back or how strong they would be able to come back. There is no way Duke should have been the number 1 seed, overall seed in that tournament. Not saying they didn't deserve a number 1 seed, but they should not have been the number 1 overall seed.
Even if Duke is completely healthy, it was clear that the Big 12 and the Big 10 were by far the best conferences in the country, and Arizona and Michigan should have been the top 2 seeds.
Exactly. Duke could have been the number 3 overall seed, and
right.
And we would have gotten we would have gotten 2 semifinals that, we should get. Let's face it. The best, probably what could be the best game of the Final Four may be that semifinal between Michigan and Arizona. As far as just pure...
UConn and Illinois are both good enough to beat either one of those teams, but it sure seems like Arizona and Michigan are the 2 best teams. All right, Michelle, let's turn to the women's tournament because that's gone pretty much how we expected. Nice run by Notre Dame, though.
It was a nice run by Notre Dame. Hannah Hidalgo turned in one of the most special performances of the entire tournament, and maybe one of the most special performances in the tournament history in that triple-double. And we talked about that earlier after that happened in their win, in the Sweet 16 win that they had over Louisville. And she was only 3 assists away from a quadruple-double. And then even in the UConn game, she got she had a double-double. She just didn't have enough. UConn has more depth than Notre Dame. Notre Dame just did not have enough depth to really be able to battle back or to get UConn. I will say this. I'm going to give Coach Ivey huge kudos. I thought she came out with a great game plan. And I think she wanted to see how they were going to guard Hannah. And so she realized that they were playing the person guarding Hannah, which might have been Arnold. I'm not sure exactly. But they were a no-help defender, which means that they were not coming off Hannah to help out on any other Notre Dame. They would go ahead and let them drive, whatever. They were not going to leave Hannah Hidalgo alone. And so she stood for a few possessions. She just stood out beyond the 3-point line, down on the baseline on the wing, and she never moved. And her defender was within 2-3 feet of her, and her defender never moved. And Notre Dame got some good looks. They just couldn't cash in on those looks. It would have been interesting if they'd been able to nail some of those easy shots that they rimmed in and rimmed out, if that would have changed the tone of that game in any way, shape, or form. But UConn's experience, having been there, having won it last year, AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong and Ashlyn Shade, another Indiana product, by the way, that experience I thought just has paid dividends for UConn and paid dividends for them in that Notre Dame game yesterday. But I will.
All right. UConn and UCLA already in the Final Four. Michelle, tonight is Michigan, Texas, TCU, and South Carolina. I want you to preview those games real fast, and then want to let everybody know that you and I will be recapping the tournament so far and looking forward to the Final Four here with a podcast in the next day or so.
All right. I will say that I'm going to go with the South Carolina-TCU game real quick. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Of course, TCU has Olivia Miles, who's also had a really good tournament. South Carolina, they have some good players, but South Carolina has Dawn Staley, who, along with Gino Auriemma, are probably the 2 best coaches in women's basketball, college basketball. Just their success tells you that. But so I give South Carolina an edge over TCU with that because they've been there and Dawn has. I will say this. I don't know that the South Carolina team is as good as some of the South Carolina teams she's had in the past. And I kind of wish, for the Big Ten's sake, that Michigan was playing South Carolina instead of Texas. Because I think next to UConn, I think Texas is the best team in this tournament as far as just athletic, what they can do on both ends of the court. They have Booker and they have Harmon, and Texas is a really good team too. They offer kind of the whole package. So I think Texas and South Carolina will win tonight. It would be interesting. Like I said, I think I would prefer the Michigan-South Carolina matchup.
Alex Palou won his second IndyCar race of the early season, beating Christian Lundgaard by 13 seconds for the Grand Prix of Alabama. His 23rd career win and his 10th in his last season, plus 4 races this year. Palou is now in a deadlock atop the series with Kyle Kirkwood, who finished 4th on Sunday. Graham Rahal finished third at Alabama, his first podium finish since August of 2023. And we have a full recap of that with Elijah Poe, Michelle, and Dave Chanley. Michelle, your thoughts on another Alex Palou win?
It doesn't surprise me. He's going to notch a few more of those wins the rest of the season. Not only is he a fantastic driver, we've talked about this before, he's got a fantastic race team behind him. That 10 crew has been really good, and not even before Palou drove the 10. Franchitti, they've had good drivers before. That crew, especially in the pits, is just phenomenal. They just don't make mistakes.
And the Reds beat the Red Sox 3-2 on Gino Suarez 3-run homer in the seventh to take 2 out of 3 in the series from Boston. And Michelle, I believe this team is for real. What about you?
Yeah, I do too. I like their pitching. I like their young stars. I like the fact that Matt McClain seems to have regained the form that he had before he had to miss a season with an injury. And then he struggled, I thought, last year just to get comfortable at the plate, and I think he's back to being comfortable at the plate. They've got veteran talent. They've got young players, maybe a little bit more depth, especially in the outfield, which is where they didn't really have depth the last couple of years. So it's going to be great for Tino to be able to kind of play guys that are hot when they're hot, and pitching. And we always knew the starting pitching was going to be good. I know there was a question when Hunter Green has gone down with an injury and won't be available, they don't think, until July this year. But bullpens turned out to be pretty good, Greg.
With Ashcraft, Santillana, and Pagan, if you're going to be a serious contender, you have to have that 1, 2, 3, 7th, 8th, 9th out of the bullpen, and I think they have that.
I haven't really got to watch a lot of the baseball yet because I've been immersed in basketball between college and high school this last weekend. But I did get to see a lot of the social media and the clips, and boy, it was a rough day for CB Buckner behind the plate, right?
Well, yeah, especially late in the game.
I saw a tweet where he has been challenged so far this season, and I think he's been wrong at least over 90% of the time. And I saw somebody else. Man. And did you see where Rick Bozich, who I know you know well because he's down the Louisville area, he tweeted, and I think he's right. He said that maybe that that they collect all these stats, and when they go back, and maybe the bottom 3 officials from Major League Baseball should go back to AAA next year before being allowed back up to major leagues, just to hone their craft. And
love it.
Yes.
Love it. How about the bottom half move down and the top half from the minors move up? And
that would be okay too. Yes.
And we just get all the best people.
Yes.
The Reds host the Pirates for 3 starting tonight at 6:40 on FS1. Milwaukee is 3-0 after sweeping the White Sox. The Reds and Cardinals are 2-1, and the Pirates and Cubs are 1-2 in the NL Central after the opening weekend. The Brewers are one of 5 unbeaten teams. Along with the others, no surprises: Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays, and the Marlins, who swept the Rockies, so that doesn't really count. Much more on the Major League Baseball on tomorrow's show. We're also working on an MLB report with Paul and Will in the next few days. Chase Elliott won the NASCAR race at Martinsville, and 19-year-old Italian Kimi Antonelli won his second Formula One race, this time in Japan. 19 years old, beating the best drivers in the world, Michelle.
They say when you're young, your reflexes and stuff are a lot quicker, and
youngest driver ever to win a race, and it looks like it's legit.
I'll tell you, people probably do not understand as much sacrifice as he's had to make growing up, things that he's missed to be this good and to get out there and win. After my interview with Tony Kanaan, I have such an even more deep respect for drivers and the ones that start young and what they give up to be the best.
And on Saturday, USA Soccer lost 5-2 to Belgium in Atlanta. Weston McKennie scored first for the Americans in the 39th minute. Then right before halftime, Belgium scored it. Then right before halftime, Belgium tied it. And then that was the first of 5 straight Belgian goals. Had high hopes for this next USA team in the World Cup, Michelle, and it just doesn't look like it's happening.
No, it doesn't.
Definitely the most talent they've ever had, that's for sure.
It is.
players all playing in the top levels all over the world, they're still just not very good.
Here's the thing. The U.S. men have struggled to find the leadership to put it all together and to know what combinations mix. Sometimes it's not always, sometimes you don't need the top 20 players. Sometimes you need the top 15 players and then 5 that know their roles and are going to fit in and make a great culture and bond the team. United States has gotten that right for the most part with their women's coaches. They did the guy that Emma Hayes replaced. That was their blip. Otherwise, they've done a wonderful job, and I think they hit it out of the ballpark with Emma Hayes this last time. She's done a wonderful job of navigating, and especially the strong personalities in the game with the political statements wanted to make and kind of getting them back focused just on soccer and meshing everybody together. She's been fantastic, and I think the men need to find their Emma Hayes.
And 4 state champions were crowned on Saturday. Mount Vernon won its first ever boys basketball state championship behind 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists from future Mr. Basketball and Purdue Boilermaker Luke Ertl.
That game was really a fun game to watch. He was sensational, but so was the Shaw kid from Crown Point. Our boys Indiana All-Stars are going to be I think they're going to be pretty solid this year. They're going to have some good guys, and I think it's going to start with Ertl and Shaw.
Parke Heritage also won its first state championship ever, just 7 years into the school's existence, on a basket from Isaac Pickle with 10 seconds left, and then Austin Schlebaugh's attempt at the win for Westview hit the rim at least 3 times and fell off. And as we predicted on our preview, that was the best game of the night.
I would say best games were probably 2A, then 4A, then 1A, then 3A.
And Cathedral pulled away from New Haven to win the 3A title, and Barr-Reeve pulled away late to beat Triton for the Class A crown, the 3rd state championship for both programs, all of them recent. And we had a full recap of the state finals with Grant Schaus that we released on Sunday. Please go check that out. And Michelle and I will be back on Tuesday on Greg and his Friends Talk Sports to talk about the women's Final Four.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to next weekend being Final Four weekend. It seems really weird, doesn't it, Greg, that high school basketball was over? It seems like just yesterday we were going through the football and then turning our attention towards basketball. And now high school basketball season is over, and college basketball is going to be over after this coming weekend, or after Easter weekend here. Maybe turn warm, stay warm, and get to enjoy outdoor sports.
Hey, at least we have the Reds, the Fever, and IndyCar to keep us entertained. The Reds have not kept us entertained much over the last few years.
It's just really kind of a shame, isn't it, that we don't get to have the Pacers to entertain us this summer for a while, this early summer like we did last year.
It really is a shame, but we have years ahead of us, and if everything goes right on May 10th, we'll have even more great years ahead of us, so it's a big time. Lots of off-court stuff that's going to be fun as well.
Yes, most definitely.
Michelle, thank you so much. My friends and I will be back tomorrow. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.